We're
All
back.
right, we back.
We back.
We had a few technical difficulties. Facebook did something kind of janky with our stream, so we are back picking up where we left off. We were with our guest Bria, and we're gonna get back into what she was talking about. We were talking about mental health awareness. This is a subject that we have touched on before. If you want to go listen to that, go check us out on all the streaming platforms you can think of. Looking us up, and you will be able to find that episode. And we're gonna get right back into down into the nitty gritty. You're gonna bring our guest back in. Alrighty, we're back with our beautiful guest, BriaSpeaksLife. And what I was about to say, before you just realized what Facebook did, I was about to ask you, okay, so we know about the pain and what has came about, what you have gone through. So let's talk. You're muted, so I can't. You're kind of moving slow too.
I can't really hear you. You're
You can't really hear me.
staticky.
It's staticky. Muted or
Uh,
unmuted?
yeah.
Can you? Is everything okay now? Yes. No. Yeah,
I think she's frozen.
she is frozen. Dang. Internet technology is good when it works, but when it
Right.
doesn't, ugh, dang, this is. Honestly, is there any way you can take her out and bring her back in? See if that works. Sorry, guys, we're continuing to have technical difficulties for whatever reason.
Came on something like Megatron.
It's fair.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, all right.
Yes.
We're good.
All right, cool. We in it. We in it.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yes, clearly
right.
now. Perfect.
Praise the Lord. All righty.
Start with
So, pick it right back up where we left off. You talked about your pain. You talked about the things that you've gone through that driven you to the point. Um, uh, I can, I'm sorry. I get kind of weird when I talk about other people's struggles. 'Cause I don't want to be like, just throw it out there like that, say it just to say it. But you talked about what
Yeah.
you've been through and what it did to your mental health. Now let's talk about how you took that and turned it into a positive and ended up helping people among the same demographic and the same group, that the same people that you looked at and said they're just like me. You went out and started something and really put your foot down, got your boots on the ground and started, working in the field. So let's talk a little bit about your ministry and what's going on with that.
Okay. So before I even started my ministry, they always say the work starts at home. So I have younger sisters. So for me, turning it into a positive, I shared my pain with my younger sisters, and I just let them know how important it is to go to therapy and to get counseling, and let them know, like, if you're going through something, like, I'm here to help you through it, but there are going to be some things that I can't help you with, and that's okay. But whatever you're going through, like, let me know so that I can, help you go get the help you need. And just starting off with that led my sisters to start therapy on their own, and even my mom is going to counseling now. So for me, that really, like, brought joy to my heart, because it's like me, I just started something with just in my household, and now it's like, okay, then with my ministry, I'm actually in a process of publishing a book. And in my book, it's just a journey through my life and everything that I've been through. And basically in the book, I'm speaking on my mental health and how it just down spiraled from everything that I've been through. But I also, put a spin on it and talk about how, developing my relationship with God and then, going to counseling, intertwining the two is what helped me to, come back up mentally. Not to say like all my problems are healed and everything is like gone, but it's just showing people like how I started that journey. So as far as like what I'm doing for the community, I'm starting there. Like I'm just starting by sharing my story and sharing my pain so people could see like, hey, this girl probably went through some of the same things I went through, but she's making it. Now I want to see what she did to make it. And if I could just reach one person, that'll just make me happy, because it's like, looking at me, I'm not perfect and I'm not going to have all the answers. But if you could just learn one thing from me, that's what I used to come up was prayer, developing my relationship with God, and going to therapy every week. Like, no kidding. But yeah, that's basically pretty much what I'm doing so far. Don't know what God has in store for me and what other avenues I'll be working in, but I'm definitely going to be more involved with, letting people be more aware of like mental health, especially as, us as well, me, I don't know if you guys are Christians, but as Christians, because, as Christians, we get this rap, like we're always supposed to be happy. We're always supposed to be smiling, but that's not the truth. That's not reality. We don't live in a perfect world. So we're going to have pain. And I just feel like it's important for me as a believer to advocate, like, you don't got to be happy all the time. Like, God don't think any less of you because you frown one day. If anything, those are the times he wants you to come to him, because he can comfort you and he can give you the resources you need to get that comfort. So, I'm just out here doing the work of the Lord, honestly. Yeah.
Let me interject, please. First of all, thank you for
Sure.
sharing. I think you're doing a beautiful thing with your life, and I think that's amazing. I wanted to touch on, if you guys go and check out the YouTube video, Bria mentioned that she used a journal to write out a timeline of her mental health journey and how she got to the point that she did. And personally, I love to journal. I do it every day. But I wanted to ask you, what do you feel like is the importance of journaling when somebody is dealing with mental health issues?
I think the importance is just to release what you're feeling. And sometimes you don't even know what you're feeling, but just sometimes getting it out on paper helps you to process your thoughts. I know for me, sometimes I have so many jumbled thoughts and it overwhelms me. So I just write it down. And then by the end of it, I'm like, oh, you're feeling this way because of this, or you're feeling this way because of this. So it really helps you to identify like how you're feeling, or it helps you to like process your thoughts better. So I would definitely recommend journaling, but that's not everybody's thing. I know, like for my younger sister, she draws. That's how she expresses herself. So she draws, she colors, whatever she's feeling, that's how she expresses herself. So I think as long as you find a way that you can fully express yourself and how you're feeling, it doesn't necessarily have to be journaling, but journaling was just my thing. I'm a writer, so it's easy for me to, write how I'm feeling and get it out on paper, but it's not easy for me to articulate it in words. So it's like, I can't sit here and tell you how I feel all the time, but I could definitely whip out a journal and go crazy with it. So journaling definitely does help with you really trying to figure out, okay, why I feel a certain way and what can I do now? So it's like putting your feelings on paper and now trying to decide, where do I go from here?
Thank you. That's great.
You're welcome.
Hey, Bria. Man.
Hey.
You kind of started to touch on it, but you talked about, how what really helped for you was a combination of growing your relationship with God and prayer, as well as going to counseling. And as a Christian who has and does in his life dealt with mental health issues, and just seeing other Christians deal with mental health issues, a lot of times we're pigeonholed or put into this stigma or this idea that we're just supposed to like rely on God and like just pray pray the darkness away or whatever, the case may be. And sometimes, sometimes that is all it takes for certain people, but for certain people, going the quote unquote secular route of therapy, counseling, maybe even if it's severe enough, medication is necessary and needed. So can you just talk about how you as a Christian woman traversed having to have that, that dual, I'm trying to think, what's the word when you attack something from two directions? That thing, whatever the word for that is, that method of working through and handling your mental
health. I think one thing that helped me is, yes, we are spiritual beings, but we also have practical ways of life. So it's like, yes, there are people who they just pray to God and God was able to heal them like that. Like, I'm not knocking that at all, because that is possible. But I think we limit God when we only say that, oh, God can only heal you if you pray a certain way or if you do this and that. It's kind of limiting him and saying, well, he can't use this person to help me through my journey, because that's all it is. I believe that the people God has placed in my life, he has used them to help me through my journey. And that's not to discredit God, because every time I talk, I always say, that woman was put in my life by God. Like, no, like just the story of even how I got into counseling, I know it was orchestrated by God, because when I first went in, they had off the bat told me it might take you 3 months just to get an appointment with a counselor. And I got a counselor within that same week. And she was Christian. So it was like, it was so many things that I was just like, I know that some people gonna get on me because I'm a Christian and I'm in counseling. But at the same time, God wants us to be in community. Like, he didn't create us to be alone. So why would he want you to go through your pain alone? Like, just think about that. If you're hurting and if you're in pain and there's somebody who can understand your pain, why would God tell you not to go talk to this person? If that person can help you, we're supposed to be blessings to other people, help other people, serve other people. How can we do that if we're sitting here telling each other, no, don't go to counseling. Don't go to counseling. Now, that's not to say put your soul dependence into counseling or put your soul dependence into medication. No, that just means all of those things work together to help you better yourself. Like, you can't have one without the other. Like, you can't just go to counseling and that's just it. Just like you can't just take medication and not seek a counselor. So it's like you have to do all those things together. Like, if you have to take medication, I'm not knocking that, because I take medication. I was against it at first because I'm like, I'm a Christian. I don't need that. But it's not something you have to stay on forever. It's just something to help you boost the chemicals in your brain. Like, I know that sounds scary and I'm not, eloquent to speak on that. But it's just like you have to use all the resources God has placed on this earth for you to use. Like, God is our ultimate healer, but he has placed people on this earth to help us walk through this life. Like, no matter what their title may be, because that's all it is. A counselor just has a different title. They're still human first. They just have a title and a degree to help that puts them on a different level than you, but they're still human just like you. They still got problems and issues just like you. The only difference is they might be able to help you with your problems better than you can, and they might see problems that you can't even see. So when it comes to that, I did think about that. And that was another reason why I was hesitant on going to counseling, because I was a believer. And I felt like if I went to counseling, that just means I didn't have faith in God. But honestly, you going to a counselor, that's your faith, because you're like, I know I'm going to get healing, and I'm going to get healing in whatever way God decides to give me healing. That's your faith right there, because some people get that instant healing, but there are people who have to go through a process of healing. And I was that person. Mine was a process. It wasn't instant. I didn't get no instant healing like, certain people. I had to be taken through a process. I had to shed some layers of myself. And God really had to show me myself, show me my past, show me what hurt me, so I can know that's why you act like that. That's why you can't get no friends. That's why you always acting like this every time somebody nice to you. Like, God really had to show me, but he was only able to do that. Listen,
you better talk.
It was a struggle. I'm speaking on the outside. I'm not on the inside. I'm speaking on the outside of all this I had to go through. Because at first I wasn't with it, because it was like this lady was telling me all about myself. I'm like, listen, I'm not here for that. But that's what I was there for her to tell me about myself so I can get myself together. And sometimes you need that. You can't always see what's wrong with you. Like, you can't always know that, you know, you got issues that you need to deal with. Like, there was some deep-rooted issues my counselor would tell me about myself. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. I know I wasn't crazy. I'm not crazy. Like, I knew I was acting like that for a reason. So everything works together. Like, God can use anything and anybody. And I think we need to stop limiting God to just certain things. Like, God is God. He's a mystery in himself. So it's just like, stop limiting God. Like, period. Just stop. Okay, I'm done.
No, that was more than amazing. Like, thank you. Yes.
Yo, that's what's up. That's powerful, Bria. Absolutely powerful. And I know we started we had to restart tonight, so we lost a little time. But we want to bring in our next guest. You have shared some powerful information. Thank you for your story. Thank you for just being open and honest and transparent, because your testimony is going to help so many people. And the fact that you are relatable, okay, you know, just kicking it raw, that's how it is, you know. So we appreciate you and we want to thank you. So we're going to bring in our next guest for this evening so we can have her bring her expertise to our conversation and be able to share with us, with you guys, you know, what it is that she does and how we can be able to traverse during these times. We're going to be bringing in our next guest, none other than Dr. Tina Bedell.
Tina, house.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome, my sister.
We I don't think we can hear you. Can anybody else hear her?
I can't hear her.
Affirmative on the negative.
Okay, Dr. Tina, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? She can.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take you out and bring you back in. You were just muted just now. Let's take you out and bring you back in, see if we can get you back in.
Probably having that E problem.
Hello, can you hear us? We still can't hear you.
The devil just don't want us to be great today, man.
No, he don't. He's a liar though.
Nah, for real though. He was working overtime on me all day.
He is a liar. Is your sound up? We don't have you muted on this side.
You don't happen to be using AirPods, do you? That's
Do you have in headphones? Man, technology, I tell you.
It's good when it works.
No matter how hard you work to prepare and make sure that everything is going to work out okay, you still end up facing these crazy technical difficulties. That was an amazing testimony someone said from BRIA. Okay, so Dr. T. Wow. We want to thank our guests that are joining us by YouTube and that are joining us by Facebook Live, YouTube Live and Facebook Live on in our Healing Pain Through the Arts group page. Once again, we are okay, so BRIA had to leave, so we want to thank her. We did put her book up there, Deal With It, so everybody follow her on social media. We'll put up her information before we leave. And now we have Dr. Tina Bedell, who is a family and a marriage and family therapist in Columbus, Georgia. And We won her information from Bedell Counseling, Coaching, and Consulting Services in Columbus, Georgia. And the enemy does not want her to put this information in the atmosphere today because he's fighting all the time so that she cannot be heard.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, glory! Hallelujah!
Hot cheese. See what happens when you keep on.
Jesus,
There you
my
go.
God.
I did a microphone boost, whatever that is. I don't know what I'm
Well, you're here, and we hear you. Okay, everybody else is we're gonna kind of lay in the cut, and you guys take Dr. Bill. Dr. Bill, I love you. This is my sister. So many years. Thank you so much, Dr. I call her Dr. T affectionately. No disrespect, but I love her and her husband Sydney and the family so much. And you know, this is not a time for us to catch up, girl. But I'm so glad to see you. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Our team is phenomenal, as you can see, and they're going to take you further. So let's move on.
Well, Dr. Liddell, we thank you so much for taking the time out to join us tonight. If you could just let our viewers know a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am a board certified life coach, and I'm also an ordained minister. I have a private practice in Columbus, Georgia. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, but we have been here for 12 years now. So, yeah.
All righty. Well, is there any particular reason why you went from Columbus, Georgia to Columbus, Ohio? I mean, Columbus, Ohio to Columbus, Georgia.
My husband got a job here. That's the only reason. Actually, me and I call her Pastor Amber. We were together in New York for a period of time, and then
That's right.
my husband got a job here in Columbus, Georgia, so we moved here.
So you know Bishop Rossford and my mom and folks?
Yes, absolutely.
That's right. We family.
Yes.
Well, due to the recent events going on in our country, of course, we had to ask this question. With everything that's going on right now, what do you think, or how can we cope and deal mentally with the level of brutality and racism that's going on in the world today?
Well, I think
before Dr. T answers that question, let's cue these videos up. Dr. T, take a look at this, and then you can go into that question. And we're gonna just show a few videos.
What's it going to take for you guys to be okay tonight and to stop this chaos?
It ain't me. It's not me. I'm going to let y'all know that now. It's not us guys neither. And I'm glad that y'all said that. It's not us. It's the police. This the madness that they spark up. This is what they encourage. This is what they provoke. This is what you get out of you taking a loved one from someone. This is what you get. You get a lot of people that's hurt, and they can't vent the right way. They can no longer depend on the police to be here to protect us like they say they gonna do. So this is what you get. And no, it's not gonna end today. I can't tell you it's gonna end tomorrow. I don't know when it's gonna end. But it's for y'all to start. We're not the ones that's killing us. Y'all killing us. We can't make a change if y'all don't change.
And in those first two videos, of course, those are the reaction of the communities reacting to the murder of George Floyd. So I'll ask the question again for Dr. Bedell. With the current state of our country and everything that has been going on with police brutality and racism, how do you think we as youth can cope and deal mentally with the level of brutality and racism that we face?
Well, I think, first of all, I think it starts with the family. We know that these people who have been brutalized and murdered by police and gotten away with it, we know and understand that sometimes they weren't, in a lot of cases, they weren't doing anything wrong. And at the very least, they were unarmed. But so it does start in the home in the sense of what we've had to do over, I guess, maybe the last 10 to 12 years is being able to talk to our children as parents and talk about how we are supposed to conduct ourselves when we are stopped by the police. Sometimes that means being mindful of what you wear when you're going out into the community. Sometimes it means, you know, just having those manners that you learn from your parents. But I understand that, you know, there are people who have learned a lot from their parents. They were raised the right way. You know, they may have been doing nothing to break the law, and those things still happen. And when I think about those videos, that's the first time I've seen those videos, and they were very powerful, sad but powerful, especially the young man that spoke later. You know, that he spoke a lot of truth in the sense of this came out of a place of being angry. This came out of a place of justice not being served. This came out of a place that nothing is being done about this, and it's being done at alarming rates, and it's been taken very casually. These people have not been able to receive the justice. At the end of the day, people are losing their brothers, they're losing their fathers, they're losing their husbands over these type of situations. And it's very difficult when you feel like nobody's on your side. It's kind of like, you're not going to do something about it. Now I'm going to do something. It is not the correct way to handle it, because then you're just making an even worse situation worse. It's not the way to handle it, but it's kind of one of those things like, you haven't given me the power, or you haven't given the justice to the people who deserve justice. So we're going to take things into our own hands. We know that that can make the situation worse, because then you have a situation where the police can justify why they're using probably more brutal methods. If you're being aggressive, then they have to take aggressive measures. And so I think it goes down to, you know, the politicians. It goes down to, you know, your parents teaching you different things to keep yourself at a lower risk of those things happening. Once again, I understand that you can be innocent and still deal with these type of situations. But I think what needs to happen is there needs to be support groups of these type of things. There needs to be training, of course, police training for cultural sensitivity. And it needs to be by people who are of color, because I think part of it is you're dealing with a cultural, you're not only dealing with a race issue, you're dealing with a cultural issue. And so there needs to be programs set up in police departments that speak to diversity and cultural sensitivity. The bottom line is, you know, it's not a crime to be in a car and just be riding around and you're Black. But the way it has been set up and the way things have been going over probably like the last 10 to 12 years. Well, let me say this. We know that this has been going on since the beginning of time. We do know that. The only reason why it's on Front Street is because we have social media. We have cell phones now, we have video cameras, those type of things. So let me just make that clear. And it's disrespectful and it's very audacious for these things to be captured on TV, these things to be captured on cell phones, and there's nothing being done about it. And quite frankly, we're angry. It puts people in a position of fear. I know my son is going back to school, to his college to get his things. We had a death in the family, so we're going to see the family, but my son has to go get his stuff. And so I was talking to him today about his driving. I was talking to him today about where he needs to have his license and registration just in case he gets stopped. You know, I told him what he needs to do when he gets stopped. But even as a mother, I'm still fearful if that happens and he's 7 hours away and I can't get to him. It's very disheartening. It's very sad. When I saw the George Floyd thing, I could hardly watch. I couldn't even finish watching. I had to turn it off. It devastated me, just like you know, the Michael Browns, the Trayvon Martins, the Sandra Bland, all those type of things. Devastating. It's devastating. The bottom line is, we all know this goes back to racism, and it can continue to happen because it's a racist issue. And so one of the main things we can do is pray, and then talking to, you know, to politicians about getting laws passed, you know, doing silent protests, doing things, you know, the nonviolent type of stuff, not looting, you know, not breaking things, because that's not productive. One thing we don't want to have happen is that they say, this is why we have to act this way, because you see what they're doing now. And so it's very disrespectful, very disheartening, and very sad that we have to even have to talk about this.
I agree with a lot of what you just said, and you hit the nail on the head with a lot of your points. So shifting gears though, what you stated that you are a family therapist. So what are the major and persistent mental health illnesses that the youth are dealing with today?
A lot of it is ADD. Most of you all probably know what that is. It's attention deficit disorder, difficulty paying attention, easily distracted, having difficulty staying focused. If you have the hyper type, you tend to be very excessive in your behavior, tend to be all over the place. Then you have oppositional defiant disorder. That's where you're pretty impulsive, disruptive, angry, irritable, argumentative, particularly towards authority. But when you look at what the youth is struggling with today, it's primarily depression and anxiety. If you ask most of the youth today who have mental illness, and you ask them, what is it that you're struggling with most? It's depression. Depression being the signs being irritability, you know, anger, bouts of crying, you know, withdrawal from friends and family, isolating yourself from friends and family, not being interested in hanging out with friends, change in appetite, change in your sleeping patterns, and then of course anxiety. And it's so funny because in my generation, I don't remember anybody having anxiety to the extent that that you're seeing it now. But anxiety, you know, that fear, having panic attacks, you know, always feeling on edge, always feeling uptight, always worried about something happening, agitated, irritable. Your mind is racing. You can't sleep at night because your mind is racing. Your mind is jumping from subject to subject, constantly worrying about dying, constantly worried about what people think about you, that sort of thing. So depression and anxiety are probably the two most ones that that youth today are dealing with.
All righty. Can you put into perspective for people who are unaware of the things that individuals are dealing with? Like, what are the types of issues that they go through, like day to day, and if you can, kind of give them a way to seek help in a sense, like what avenues they take if people are not necessarily have been diagnosed, but know that there's something that's going on within themselves that they can attack and make better.
I kind of want to touch, yeah, okay. So I kind of want to touch on why people don't go to counseling. Not everybody's going to go to counseling. There's a stigma about receiving therapy, particularly in the Black community, because we haven't always trusted healthcare professionals. Years ago, we would get overdiagnosed, over-medicated. But part of the reason why there's a stigma, it's because, you know, it's this thing about if you go to therapy, you're crazy. Therapy is for crazy people.
Right.
Or you're weak if you go to therapy. And particularly as Christians, we're always told you just pray it away. And so, you know, I'm an ordained minister. I'm not a huge proponent of medication. And if you can pray it away, you know, I suggest that you do that. I'm not a big proponent, but I don't disagree with it either. Because if somebody tells me that they're going to jump off into the river, then you need to be on some medication to keep you from jumping off into the river. And so sometimes for me, I primarily see couples and adults. I don't see children. But if a client comes into my office and they're extremely depressed to the point that we can't even get through this session, they need to be on medication. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be on medication for the rest of their lives. They need maybe the skills, a skill set to be able to cope and manage their symptoms. But if we can't get through the session because the whole time they're crying and they're suicidal, they need medication to be able to get through the session. Sometimes people need medication to get through the day. If you're depressed and if you're severely depressed and you're going to school, you cannot concentrate. If you go to school and you have severe anxiety, you have PTSD, and you've been traumatized, and that thing is playing over and over in your mind, you're not going to be able to concentrate. Now, there's some people that they need to have medication, and they will be on medication for the rest of their lives. And it's because they have a chemical imbalance. It's something physiologically wrong with them. So when you hear people say, well, they're crazy or they get a crazy check, you know, the thing that I always like to say is you'll go to the doctor and you will take medication for diabetes. You will go to the doctor, you will take medication for high blood pressure. You will go to the doctor and take chemotherapy if you have cancer. Well, mental illness is a medical condition. It's a medical condition. And let me tell you the difference between a physical medical condition and a mental medical condition. And I'm talking about people who have a chemical imbalance. A person who has high blood pressure, that's on them. You know, that's a lifestyle thing. A person who has diabetes, you have diabetes. Now, let me put a disclaimer in there. If you have diabetes, diabetes may run in your family. If you have high blood pressure may run in your family. However, it's still a lifestyle. It's still a choice. You make better decisions about eating. You exercise. You make better decisions about the seasoning, the salt, how much salt you put on your food, the types of food that you're eating. But when you have a chemical imbalance, you can't just say, all I have to do is eat the right food. And so that's the difference. With diabetes and high blood pressure, you have control over that. You may have a higher propensity to get it because maybe it runs in your family. But when you know that, it's kind of like, I have to make better choices. I have to make better choices. I have to eat better. I have to exercise, those type of things. But when you have a chemical imbalance, you can eat all the broccoli you want to. You still gonna have that chemical imbalance. And that's not to say that food doesn't have a direct correlation to, you know, some mental disorders or whatever. There are some foods that you can eat that can help. But if you have a chemical imbalance, that's something that you don't have control over, unless you have a chemical imbalance because you took drugs. Now that's a difference. But, you know, and then you got to think about it. You know, people who go to therapy, for me, I have did therapy with people who have been severely mentally ill, but for the most part, the people that I deal with are people that have everyday problems. So people who go to therapy are not crazy. Everybody needs therapy, to be honest, at some point in their life, some situation. It does not mean you're mentally ill. It does not mean that you're crazy, and it does not mean that you're weak. It takes a strong person to admit that they need help, because what happens is people suffer in silence, or they suffer because they bleed over everyone and they never get the help, but then they're calling other people crazy. So who's crazy? The person who is smart enough and has enough wisdom to go get the help they need, or the person says, I can handle it, but they're not handling it because they're ruining other people's lives. They're not handling it because they're abusing other people. They're not handling it because they're angry. They're not handling it because they're beating their wife in the face every night. And so it's just important that we understand that having mental illness doesn't mean that you're crazy. And a lot of people don't know that. They just feel like, oh, and mental illness runs in the family too. So if you have a mother who has major depressive disorder, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will have it, but it's just like any other medical condition. It means that you're at higher risk to have it. And so when you understand and know that you're at higher risk to have a particular disorder disease, then you have to be proactive and not wait until things happen and become reactive.
Mhm.
That's good. We have a couple questions from a couple of our viewers. Can you see the question from the Facebook user there? Do you think these issues that our youth are dealing with has anything to do with social media use?
Yes, that's a really good question. Bullying has been a big issue in social media, a very big issue in social media. So it has a lot to do with people feeling depressed. It has a lot to do with people doing things that they shouldn't do just to fit in. It has a lot to do with why people have low self-esteem, why people are compromising what they believe, even people of faith, because they want to be in the in crowd, or they want to be liked. You know, young girls who want to be liked by boys feel like they have to do certain things to get their attention. The comparison, you look on Instagram, you look on Facebook, of those type of things, and you see these beautiful girls who have photoshopped themselves, and you don't know that they photoshopped themselves, and so then you look and you're like, "Dag, I wish I looked like her." Well, you can too. Just get you a little app. And so, you know, social media absolutely has a lot to do with it. But my suggestion would be, if you find yourself in a situation and you're being cyberbullied, then you need to block and you need to delete people and make sure that you don't become that person. Because sometimes what happens is a person will get bullied, and then when they get in a situation where they're in the in crowd, now they follow suit with the person who's doing all the bullying. And, you know, bullying has caused people to jump off of bridges.
Yes, Lord.
People to shoot themselves, you know, that sort of thing. And today, the definitions of bullying are probably a little bit more rigid and stringent, not in a bad way. But, you know, back in my day, you know, if you were teasing, if you were saying something to somebody, it was called teasing. Now it's bullying. You know, and so we have to, you know, be mindful of that. And it's hard to tell somebody who's a teenager, don't get on social media. That's hard to do, because that's what you all do. You know, that's what young adults do. You get on social media, you know, you post stuff, you know, and it's a fun thing. It can be used for good. But I think with you all being you know, a young woman and young men, you should make it a point in your life when you see those things to address. People think they're probably getting bullied at home, and a bully gets bullied. So a lot of times kids who are bullying, they're getting bullied at home. And so they're acting out what they see. And what you'll find is bullies are very insecure people. So yes, social media does have a lot to do with what's going on with the mental health of youth. So the next question: what are some practical coping strategies for someone dealing with depression? Well, first of all, is go get some counseling, so somebody who's a professional and who's licensed can help you process, to dig deep. One of the things that BRIA said that I absolutely love, and I give this assignment all the time. She talked about when she was in the facility, how she wrote in a journal. She wrote about all the things that she went through in her life. And I give that assignment pretty much to everybody that walks through my door. And I call it the defining moments assignment, because a lot of times people don't know why they're so angry. They don't know why they're so sad. And so if you're able to write those things down and help get that process with the licensed therapist, then you will understand why you do the things you do. You will understand why you feel the way you feel, and you will understand why you think the way that you think. And so it's important to write things down, to keep a journal. If your parents are not allowing you to get counseling, or you don't feel comfortable getting counseling, make sure you find a mentor or a teacher or a friend's parent, somebody you feel comfortable with, that you trust, that you can talk to. And then also talk to friends that you can trust. You know, watch your friend's life. You know, I think that when you think about exposing yourself and your vulnerabilities to someone, there's a few questions that you have to ask yourself. You have to ask, I feel like people have to qualify for you to be able to be transparent with them. And I think one is, can I trust you? Can I trust you? If I tell you something very sacred to you, or something very sensitive to you, are you going to go back and tell somebody? And somebody says, well, how would you know that? What have you seen them do with other people's information? The other thing is, the next thing is that person going to judge you? As this person tends to be a judgmental person. Are they always talking about somebody like, I don't know why they did that, or why they did this, they shouldn't have did this? Are they judgmental? Do they love the Lord? Can they give you good advice? Because if you're talking to somebody and you're struggling with something, you're talking to them because you want some help. Venting will only take you so far. You're dumping it, but the problem is not gone. You need somebody to help you to process that. You need somebody to process that. You need to recognize when there's an issue, find out for yourself, who do I feel comfortable talking with? And for young men, that's hard. For men in general, that's the hardest thing to do. But you have to find that person in your life where you feel comfortable with and say, I need to talk to you about something. And this is, I've been dealing with this for a long time. And this is what I need from you. And if you can't give it to me, can you point me in the direction of someone that I can talk to? But my thing is, first, nobody is going to help you in the way that a spirit-filled licensed therapist who has a gift to see into your issues, to be able to prophetically speak into your issues, that's going to help you. And so just make sure that when you decide that you want to speak with somebody about the issues that you're dealing with, and it's not a therapist, you want to make sure that person qualifies to be even worthy of you saying anything and sharing sharing what you're going through.
Amen.
That was good.
Amen.
That was amazing. We got time for one more?
Yeah.
Okay. So considering that many people who are unaware of mental health issues, they don't recognize when their loved ones are going through them, what are some of the telltale signs for them to look for?
Okay. Changes in behavior. If you're in a family with somebody, you know them very well. You know them than anybody else. So changes in their behavior. For somebody who's a teenager, if that person goes from making all A's, never had a C in their life, and now they're making D's and F's. If you see a person isolating themselves, and we know as teenagers, sometimes, they like to be cooped up in their room, or young adults, you like to be cooped up in your room, on your phone, on your devices, or everything. But there's that normal part of that, and then there's the extra and the overflow of that, where it's like, no, I know such and such stays in their room a lot, but this is a little bit more than what I'm used to seeing them do. When you see changes in that person's appetite, like they're not hungry, you're cooking dinner and normally they get 2 and 3 servings. Now they're telling you all the time they're not hungry. When you see a person who's always been probably very calm and all of a sudden they're just very angry, they're very agitated, they're very irritable. When that person who is normally outgoing, an extrovert, life of the party, always wants to go out and do things, and all of a sudden all they want to do is stay at home. You may find that they're unusually quiet. You may see them crying. So those are some of the things that would give that would be the telltale signs that something is going on with that person. Another thing, even if you want to look at suicide, sometimes people don't, there are always telltale signs of suicide, but sometimes the telltale signs are not something that are visible to the naked eye. They don't necessarily make sense. So when a person commits suicide, it's not the first thought that they've had about suicide. It's not like they have a bad day and then they decide they're going to commit suicide. It's something that they've been contemplating. So you may have somebody who's been dealing with depression for a while, and everybody's concerned about that person, and then all of a sudden that person makes a change for the better. They're smiling, they're laughing, you know, that sort of thing. Now, they haven't got any help. Nothing special has taken place in their life. They hadn't received therapy. They're not on any medication. And all of a sudden, they're happy. Let me explain what that means. And then the next day, they commit suicide. And it's like, I just saw him yesterday. Like, he was laughing. He was the life of the party. Because it's this idea that they have toiled so long with deciding if they're going to commit suicide or not. This is going to sound crazy, but once they finally make that decision, they're at peace.
Wow.
And then another sign is if that person has something that's very valuable to them, maybe they collect something, or something just means a lot to them, and they start giving it away. Something that they wouldn't normally give away, they start giving away. They're giving those things away because they want to make sure the person that they want to have it has it before they kill themselves. So, and those two things that I'm saying are not things that people would normally, you wouldn't think. You think when you hear a person talking about they want to die, those are obvious, you know. And when somebody says they want to die, take it very seriously.
Yes.
Always take it seriously.
Yes.
I've dealt with some clients who I know they weren't suicidal. I mean, I knew they weren't. They were saying that they were suicidal. I knew they weren't suicidal. I knew they were being manipulative. But I would be doing a disservice not to take that seriously, because what if I was wrong? And so when I hear that, I have to call the authorities or whoever to keep them safe. And so, you know, there's obvious signs when people plan on committing suicide. They've been dealing with mental illness or depression for a very long time, or they actually say that they want to commit suicide. They say that nobody loves them, or that it's not worth living, and they can't take the pain anymore. Because the reality is people who commit suicide don't really want to die. They just want the pain to go away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to people who try to commit suicide. I'm talking about guns to their head, pulling the trigger, and the gun did not go off. Now, we know that's nothing but God. I mean, I'm talking about military people who know how to use a gun. They know how to load it. They know how to clean it. There's no reason why the gun should have jammed. There's no, you know, that sort of thing. And they would tell me in the moment that pain is so great that they feel like it will never go away. And so what I want to tell people is, understand this. You cannot make a permanent decision off of a temporary feeling. Exactly. And so I would say something like, were you feeling that last week? Exactly. No. Have you felt that way before? Yes. Did that pain go away? Yes. So understanding when you're in that space of feeling like you want to end it, you have to tell yourself, this is a temporary feeling. And I know some people said, but I've been dealing with this for my entire life. What have you done to get the help that you need? Okay, I went to this therapist and it didn't work. Well, how long did you go? 3 sessions. Well, 3 sessions, you're not even scratching the surface. You know, or I went to this therapist for a month and I didn't like her. Okay, change therapist. Oh, or I don't like this medication because I don't like the way it makes me feel. Okay, so maybe you need to be on a lower dosage, or maybe you need to be on a different medication that doesn't have that particular side effect. And you know, I would encourage you all that when you see somebody that is down, when you see somebody dealing with anxiety, that you talk to them, that you minister to them, that you tell them, if you want to go to therapy, I'll go with you, you know, for your first few sessions so you feel comfortable. You know, be there for them. Don't let your friends suffer in silence. You know, do whatever you can do, even if you feel like I don't even know how to do this. I don't know what to say to make them feel better, you know, but you know how to pray. You know, you may know how to put the word on it. And so don't let your friends suffer. Do not let your friends suffer. My daughter was, she had a friend that was going through something a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, she's just really upset. And and this particular person, she's had a lot of issues. And I told my daughter, I said, go to her. And she said she doesn't want me coming over. I said, go over anyway. And I told her, I said, just go over there anyway. And, you know, as soon as she saw my daughter, she just started crying. And I said, don't let anybody, don't come over. Okay, well, you're going to have to shut the door in my face. You know, I'm coming to see about my friend. You know why I told my daughter to go over there? Because I felt like if I do not tell her to go over there and something happens to that girl, she is going to blame herself. Now we know it wouldn't, we know that whether she went over there or not wouldn't have been her fault. If this girl was suicidal, which I don't know if she was, but if she was, we know that suicide is not anybody's fault. Besides, I mean, it's just, it's, first of all, it's not black and white, but it's not the person, another person's fault. That's a decision that the other person makes because they feel like the pain is too great. And so we just have to be, you know, mindful. The thing is, some people, I know you posed a question earlier. One of you posed the question is like, how do you get help if you don't know anything is wrong? Well, the thing is, you know yourself. And so, you know, when you're not yourself, you may not be able to explain it. You may not be able to pinpoint it, but you know yourself. And if you know, well, dang, I don't normally feel this sad. I'm never in the bed like this. Like, only time I'm in my room in the bed is when it's time to go to bed. I'm out and about. I'm doing things. I'm hanging out with the family. You may not know that you're dealing with a mental health issue. You may not know that you have a diagnosis, a mental health diagnosis, but you do know when you're not yourself. And sometimes, you know, everybody's going to have a sad day. Everybody's going to at times worry and, you know, about things and maybe feel anxious about things. It's when it becomes a pattern. When you know and understand, I need to get some help. I need to get some help for this. You know when something is different for you. You know that if you're normally the type of person, as soon as your head hits the pillow, that you go to sleep and all of a sudden you're getting 2 hours of sleep because you're tossing and turning, that sort of thing. So you have to make sure, you know, and not everybody feels comfortable talking to their parents, but you know, when you're in a desperate situation, you have to be able to like, I need some therapy. I need to go to counseling. And, you know, even if your parents say, you don't need no counseling, that's for crazy people. Because I've heard people say it. You do what you need to do for yourself. And I know, you know, you can't, if you're underage, I know that you can't just go into a therapy session. You have to have your parents' consent. But for those who are in college, that sort of thing, you access those resources on your college campus, get a mentor, get somebody who is older than you to talk to, that sort of thing. So let's just make sure that we're doing what we need to do for our own mental health. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is you'll become an age where everything you say and everything you do, you'll be accountable. When you're 10 years old, people will overlook a couple of things. People will say, this is because she got molested, you know, or whatever. But by the time you're 25, you're 30, people say, yeah, I understand she got molested, but she's bleeding all over people and she hasn't got the help that she's needed. She's angry.
All over people.
She's angry. She has all these toxic relationships. She's dysfunctional. You know, she's mean. She's attitudinal. You know, people don't like to be around her. And when people don't understand what you've been through, they judge you. When people don't understand, if you're not sharing with people what you've been through, they just assume that you're just mean and nasty. But I guarantee you, anytime you're dealing with somebody who's mean and nasty, those are hurt people. People are just not mean and nasty for the sake of being mean and nasty. They have been through things.
All righty, that was very informative. I want to thank you for taking time out of your beautiful day to come talk to us and all of our viewers across the metro state area. Is that? Nah, that ain't it. The Tri-County area. That, yeah. I mean, that's the only thing that mattered. DeKalb, Gwinnett, and Fulton. Everybody else, don't worry about me.
Where there's a question, somebody says, where can you find affordable help? There are places that, affordable help can be if you have insurance. You know, some people have insurance plans where they don't pay anything. Their insurance takes care of it. There are training facilities where people who are just starting out as therapists, they're able to do therapy on a sliding fee scale, and that's based off of your income. Some people pay out of pocket. There's a lot of ways that people can pray. Sometimes church services offer counseling services to people. My thing is this, though. I think it's very important, and not to say anything about pastors, but we know in the Black community, pastors have been our therapists, our counselors. And what I've been told by a lot of pastors is that they are not equipped to do that. They can provide scripture, they can provide some context to what you're going through, but they don't know anything about processing, and they can only take you so far. And so pastors are kind of getting away from a lot of that counseling stuff because they don't feel equipped to do it. If you're not dealing with somebody who's a trained therapist, licensed, and let me just put this out here. There's a difference between a counselor and a therapist. So a counselor is somebody who has maybe an associate or bachelor's degree, but they cannot be licensed. Somebody who's a therapist has a higher degree, like a master's or a PhD, and they can have a master's and have a PhD, but if they're licensed, they can't call themselves a therapist. They can call themselves a counselor. And the counselors are not saying that they're not effective, and we do use those words interchangeably, but sometimes people feel like in the mental health, a psychiatrist is the same thing as a psychologist, as the same as a social worker, and they can all do some of the similar things, but they all have distinct things that they do. And so there are ways that you can afford therapy. This is the other thing. So people who have jobs who offer EAPs, it stands for Employee Assistant Programs. There are certain companies that pay for you to go get therapy. So you may have anywhere from 3 sessions to 10 sessions free. You don't pay anything. And if the problems are not severe, you might be able to take care of those issues, just in those sessions, and then you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. So if you're working at a job, find out from human resources if there is an EAP program that they have.
Wow. Let's give Dr. Bedell a hand. And BRIA,
yes,
she was amazing. And this is why we had technical difficulties, because this information is so powerful. We could go on and on, but we might have to have a mental health revisited part 2, because right now the community needs us. The community needs this information. Somebody said there's only so much we as ministers, pastors can do and offer through counseling as far as the word is concerned. But yes, folks with deeper issues definitely need to speak with professional help and get great information. Dr. Bedell, BRIA, MCPHEE, this has been amazing. YSO team, I know you guys have been blessed by this dialogue tonight. And we want to pray for the unrest that's in our society, and we want to pray for the racial injustice, for God to give us strategies to be able to walk through this time safely and successfully. So we're going to be ending our broadcast now. We want to thank everyone, Pastor Nedra Buckmeyer. We want to thank Linda Platt. I don't know who that was the Facebook user that was giving some great feedback. The name was hidden, but we want to thank them. We want to thank everyone that has been watching on YouTube, everyone that's watching on Facebook.
Burner account.
Huh?
That's my burner account. I got my little homie on it right now.
All right. So we want to thank them for the feedback. We want to thank the YSO team, Dr. Bedell and team. Please let us know where you can be found, and I'll put up BRIA's information as well. We want people to get her book called Deal With It, Somebody said, Pastor Ned said it was Doris. Thank you, Doris Bridges. We want to have you guys share your information so people can connect with you. And Dr. Bedell, we had your information running along the bottom on our ticker for most of our, we're going to put it back up there now, most of our broadcast, but go ahead, give us your information. How can people find you? And then our team will go, we'll put BRIA's up, and then we'll close out with our intro that some people missed because we had to come back on again. So go ahead.
Well, my website is Dr. Tina Bedell, DrTinaBeddell.com. My email address is BCCC Services. Sorry, that's my other one. BCCCS@DrTinaBeddell.com. And my work phone is 706-575-7894.
Okay, say the website again, Dr. Tina, because I didn't have that up there.
Okay, DrTinaBeddell.com.
Okay. And the number, 706?
575. 7894.
Gotcha. Okay, team, where can everybody get in touch with you guys?
Okay, I'll go first. You can follow me on Instagram at Ashton Gates with 2 S's and Twitter at Ash Gets the News.
My Facebook is Andrew Buckmeyer. I really don't be on there like that, but you can add me as a friend anyway. My Instagram and my Twitter are both _skip to my shoe. If you want to, laugh or check out my music, the links to both of those things are on there.
My Instagram is @_CB03. My Twitter is Coach_Buck03, and my Facebook is Christian Buckmeyer.
Okay, and our I'm sorry, I'm sorry. We're gonna let Saint Even go. Were you done, Christian? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Saint.
Okay. You can find me on Instagram at Lions_Nathaniel_. Also at the Even Saint. One's for my music. Everything else. You can find me on Facebook at Saint Even. Follow me on Twitter at RIP Lions. I'm retweeting a lot of very revolutionary things at the moment. We'll probably have to retweet ignorance next week. Stream my music. Just look up Saint Even wherever you stream music. And more music's coming. We're working really hard. That's an over exaggeration. We're working moderately hard, but we're still working. Is there anything else? If you have a job, my LinkedIn is Emmanuel Lyons. I am poor and need employment. And yeah, we out here.
Awesome. We also want you to follow and connect with our Youth Speak Out podcast. We're streaming on 6 digital platforms: Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Public Radio, all over the place. Check us out. Please connect with the voice of our youth, and follow us on IG at YSO Podcast and on Twitter at YSO_podcast. Connect with us to share your story or be a part of our broadcast at youthspeakoutpodcast@gmail.com. And you can also check me out as the CEO and visionary of this awesome podcast and the CEO and founder of From Pain to Purpose on Facebook, Amber Ann Lyons on IG, Nzinga, NZINGHAL, or Amber Lyons. And you can follow From Pain to Purpose all over the place. And that's YouTube, that's Facebook. Our website is www.FromPainToPurpose.net. Please connect with us, and we're going to give you Bria's information as she had to leave. We want you guys to be able to connect with her also and check out her new book that she has coming out. BRIA is the author of Deal With It, and you can connect with her at BriaSpeaksLife or linktr.ee/BRIA P. McPhee. And her actual, this is her book, Deal With It, that's coming out, and we salute her. We are so proud of her. And we're going to end on that note. Thank you guys so much. We're going to play our promo that we started with, because a lot of people did not see it on this side. So we're ending with that. Dr. Bedell, thank you so much. We love you. Thank you for being with us tonight, team. Thank you. And all of our viewers, everybody that was listening tonight, please share this broadcast. Please share this information. It's so vital. We need it right now as never before, because our mental state of our community is really out there and all over the place. So we need to be checking in to with people like Dr. Bedell to make sure that we are not going too far left, because there's a rage, as you saw in the videos that we showed earlier. They're burning down Minneapolis, they're, rioting, and, that spreads from state to state, so we cover all of us in the name of Jesus, and we ask everyone to just pray for one another. This is a time of unity and not division. So on that note, peace out until next time.
We're gonna have to get some new intro. I'm not digging this disco.